I don't know, maybe talk a little bit about like life since the NCAA tournament. I feel like Oregon State was like one of the talks of the tournament with 8 qualifiers, 6 in the round of 12, 4 All-Americans. How has it been like, coming out of that?
Well, I lied to my wife and I told her that we would have some downtime after the NCAAs, and it's been a complete whirlwind. Going into that NCAA tournament, it took us, when you go there, you have to go through security and all that. It took us maybe 30 seconds to get in. After that Friday night round, it took us probably like 45 minutes to get out. Just people stopping, patting you on the back, congratulating you, the attention. So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind from fundraising, recruiting. Recruits actually answer our calls now and they call us back. And it's just been the rapid growth of the program. I kind of liken it to, raising a child. Growth is painful, growth hurts, and our program's growing fast and we're trying to keep up with it. And it's been really nice with some of our new additions with Josh Roden, Corey Crooks, just seeing how fast the program's growing and, just trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I didn't realize this until I started talking to the guys like Roden and Crooks and Angle and learning like their background. Like they all kind of have unconventional backgrounds to being on a Division I coaching staff. Is that something that
it's by design?
By design?
It's actually by design.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of an unconventional thinker, and it's been awesome because, when you're assistant coach, you always say, hey, if this is my program, this is how I would do it. And then all of a sudden when you're head coach, you're like, okay, now I can do it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to forge a little bit of a different path. I don't believe that just because you're a great wrestler makes you a great coach or vice versa. I look at people as who they are as actually human beings first, and then go from there. Josh, Corey, and Nate are just some of the best men that I've ever been around. They're people that I would trust with my child, with my family, and your program's kind of is your child, right, to an extent. And I just really feel like they're just amazing coaches that just needed opportunities. I mean, Nate's been a proven commodity for years. He was one of the first people I hired, and he's just a home run hire, Greco Coach of the Year, Women's Coach of the Year, and eventually he's going to be an amazing head coach. And that's going to be the sad part of the growth of the program is I know he's going to be a head coach one day. He's just too good. Josh Roden, 4-time junior college national champion, and think about like junior colleges. You're taking on a lot. It's not just a Division I head coach where you're just kind of getting the creme of the creme. You're taking people that have to be mentored, molded, and reshaped. And to do that, have 5 national titles, 4-time coach of the year, and I can't remember how many people that he actually put into Division I programs, but it's astounding. And I'm looking at that and I'm watching him and I'm watching how he cares about the athletes. And I've been trying to hire him for 2 years and we finally got that going. And Corey Crooks is, that's a relationship thing. Corey's dad used to come to my camps at Oklahoma State back in 2003. So I actually kid that Corey was kind of in diapers when I first met him. And just when he was with me at Arizona State, I kind of got laughed out of the room because I told somebody one time that if you gave me 30 Corey Crookses, I'd win an NCAA title like that. And I remember people laughing at me. And sure enough, every single one of those guys were like, that's the man. The way that he just leads by example, his sincerity with athletes, he's already kind of shifting into that coaching role fast.
The other thing I've kind of noticed since we've been here over the last 2 days, like the unconventional coaching staff, but also like maybe unconventional, like how you've assembled a team over the last like year or whatever, where you've gotten you got a JUCO guy, you got Fresno State guys, a couple from Arizona State, then you were able to keep a core like nucleus at Oregon State. Was that by design? Was it kind of something that just fell into place? You just did what you had to do?
Yeah,
or
no,
what?
if anybody even claims that the last 2 years were by design, like end the interview and call them a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pandemic thing, that was a large hurdle to jump. Our biggest thing is we recruit the character of people. We actually have like turned some people away that we just didn't feel were fit within our program. And even with the transfer portal and the transfers, Gary Traub was immediately, we knew that this was the kind of guy that we could build our program around. Trey Munoz, we knew that this was the guy we could build our program around, as well as the kids that we had within the program that, you know, decided to live the right lifestyle, do what the coaching staff wanted them to, like, you know, live up to. And it was just kind of one of those perfect storms of things happening. One of the things that we pride ourselves in with our program is opportunity for men and women and everybody. And when you saw, like, you know, and for me, it really hurt because my mom was like, you know, 30 minutes from Fresno State. When I saw that program got dropped, I mean, that hurt. But we wanted to give those kids opportunities. We wanted to let them be able to come out and chase their goals. So it was kind of a perfect storm of a lot of different things.
It's also interesting interviewing the kids that were transfers, and when they're making this decision about coming to Oregon State, they talk about the coaching staff caring about me as like a person, and not just like what I do on the mat, but like wanting me to succeed outside of wrestling. Is that something that is a part of like your plan? Because I hear you talk about like your plan a lot. Is that something part of like your culture that you try to set into place? Or where does that come from?
You know, it's like kind of like funny how the world works. I just got back from the UFC Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Khabib Nurmagomedov get inducted. And he was talking about his dad. And he was talking about the first time like he made a lot of money. He's like, I got into fighting because I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted the big house, the cars. And then when his dad passed, he actually figured out that means nothing. Like, it's investments in people that mean something. There's 35 athletes on a roster. 10 go to the NCAA championships. I don't know how many actually will be an All-American or NCAA champion. My career is an outlier. That it's an outlier.
Yeah.
I wish every athlete could have that, but reality is it's not going to happen. What am I going to do with the 35 athletes? That's the thing that I started really kind of honing in on. Like, how am I impacting people's lives? Because one of the greatest lessons John told me was, we're the final like defense for young athletes before they go in the real world, before they grow up, before they, you know, have families, real jobs, pay taxes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my experiences at Oklahoma State were amazing, but the things that I valued more than anything, than the winning or whatever, I remember going like to Pat's house and, you know, just hanging out on his back porch. I remember going to the lake with Mark Branch and his family and, you know, his kids, and those kind of experiences were the things that kind of really molded me as a human being. And so that's what I want from my coaches, that's what I want from me, and that's what I want for our athletes. Like, do we have that kind of investment into the kids? And I can promise you, when you have that kind of investment, you will get a return on it. Does it mean that they're going to win? No, it doesn't mean they're going to win.
Yeah.
But I mean, like a guy like Colton Beasley, who was a 500 wrestler who he actually gave a scholarship bump to, just because we were so appreciative of what he brought to our culture, what he brought to our team. You know, seeing him do all kinds of amazing things. Layton Stigl, this got one of the highest MCAT scores in the country. Seeing the impact that these kids are having in the world, those are things that, like me, Nate, Josh, Corey, Kasoy, it really means a lot to us. And that's what we're kind of driving our program towards.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear you talk about like...
Someone's riding horses up here.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you talk about like learning that from Oklahoma State. And it seems like your relationship with the guys you went to school with are like still like really strong.
Yeah.
Today, coming from the UFC thing with Cormier, right?
Yeah, it just went to Daniel Cormier's Hall of Fame induction. Daniel was like a big brother for me. We were kind of talking about it, and both got a little teared up because he used to cut my hair. He used to do the small little things to tell me how good I was when I didn't believe how good I was. Like, Chris, you're one of the best technicians in the country. And I'm looking at a guy that literally is like on top of the world. Right. All the small things. And then it just kind of hit me last night when I was at the Hall of Fame induction and I'm watching like thousands of people chant his name. And I'm watching the people in the crowd, and he probably had 75 people-ish, just people that he affected their lives, that he made investments in, his Gilroy High School team, his AKA gym. I mean, all the small things that he does, and it inspires me because every year he just becomes a better person. So, I mean, my wife and I it wasn't the easiest trip, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to miss this. I got to go out there and support TC. Our Oklahoma State crew, our core group, I've learned the last couple of years it's not the norm. We're all extremely close, win or lose. I mean, Coleman and I were talking about it, a couple months ago. We were out with a different head coach, and he's like, well, you're telling me you guys actually really do this stuff? We're like, yes, it's not social media. We really do that. Well, what if he beats you in a duel? I was like, I'll still go to his house and we'll barbecue, and you'll probably give me a hard time. And, I win. And I'm going to talk a lot of smack to him, and he's still going to come over, and we're still going to be best friends.
Yeah. Can you just talk about where we are right now?
Right now we're on the Fit and Loop. This is where we do a lot of our preseason runs. Go ahead and, you got to give a 360 view. You got to let these people see. It's amazing. On the other side of that mountain ridge is the ocean. We kind of like to brag about Oregon that we have a little bit of everything. If you want to surf, we got it. You want to go snowboard, Mount Hood, everything's an hour and a half away. Whatever you want, we have. Life's short. We got to enjoy it a little bit. So it's not wrestling 24/7.
There's talk with the fans after, I've seen this kind of around, after NCAAs, like Oregon State, 4 All-Americans. Like, this is, man, what a cool story. It's cool to see like a program that doesn't get as much success, shoot up, but you lose a few All-Americans, you only got 1 returning.
Yeah.
Like, when's the next time Oregon State's gonna get,
thanks.
4?
No pressure.
Yeah. So
it really is hard. Losing Hunter and Grant have been extremely hard for us to deal with. Grant, he's preseason number 1 in the country. I mean, that's a substantial hit. But what we've had to go through the last 2 years in Oregon, what they've had to go through. I mean, that first year we had 5 14-day quarantines. I mean, it was mentally and physically taxing on all of us. And Hunter and Grant have given everything that they could possibly give to the program. And after months of talking to them, it really just basically boiled down to they both are, 4.0 mechanical engineer majors. One just recently got engaged. Betting the other one's not far behind. Their race has been run.
Yeah.
And they don't owe us anything. We actually owe them a lot for what they've done for the culture, what they've done for the program. And I told the coaches, because like I said, you lose a preseason number 1 wrestler in the country. That's not an easy pill to swallow. But we knew that eventually we were going to have to overcome these hurdles. We were going to have a future where we didn't have Devin, we didn't have Grant, we didn't have Hunter. And it's just time. We got good young kids that we've been recruiting, that we've been molding, and it's their time to start stepping up, and let's see what the future holds. Because I am incredibly excited for some of these guys. I think that it actually gets me out of bed in the morning where I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of weird, but I don't know. I'm like, who's going to be the starter at 133? Who's going to be the starter at 141? Who's going to be the starter at 157? Who's going to be the guys that seize the baton and go and run with it?
Yeah. So did you have a feeling like after NCAAs, like Grant and Hunter, they might not come back? Like, what was that process like for them deciding? Okay.
I knew it was going to be a long shot, and it wasn't anything like negative. I just knew with their degree, their job offers, everything that they had, that it's really hard to tell them, like, especially with the success, Hunter, like, you beat the defending national champion.
Yeah.
You pulled two of the biggest upsets I've ever seen at the NCAA tournament. People always talk about David Carr, but not a lot of people talk about Brady Berge.
Yeah.
I actually had told him, one of our last conversations before he moved back to Colorado. I'm like, Kaler is such a good recruiter. He recruited an assistant coach to come back to college.
Yeah. And you beat him, yeah.
I was like, not only did you have to beat the defending national champion second round, but you had to beat an assistant coach that is a 6-year senior first round.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to be tough because I knew that they have high aspirations of life. And, it was one of those things, wishful thinking. We had some contingency plans that put in place if they decided not to come back, but I didn't feel comfortable putting them on any kind of shot clock or, really twisting their arm about it, because, that's not how we recruit. That's not how we operate in our program. We're trying to put people first, and, I'm still incredibly excited. They're going to be back at the golf outing here in a month, and, I probably will, give them a little nudge, be like, hey, season hasn't started yet. You still can come back.
You got a year, yeah.
Berge was an assistant coach. Come on.
There you go. Can we talk about Trey a little bit? So I think, maybe from an outside perspective, if we just said Oregon State's going to have 4 All-Americans last year, Trey would have been a guy that maybe 90.
Trey and Gary were our guys that were projected to be All-Americans.
Right, 6th seed.
And I've tried to become better at taking pats on the back, but I still feel that we should have had 6 All-Americans. I really feel it. But, we talked about the growth and how pain is. I told Trey, I vividly remember, every one of my losses at the NCAA tournament. 2003 quarterfinals, Brad Dillon from Lehigh. I remember literally watching Greg Jones, and it was kind of like one of those deals pre-flow, pre-social media. People were talking about this inevitable thing with me and Greg Jones, boom, boom, 1 and 2. And my whole mindset was Greg Jones. And I think it was the last dual meet of the year, I wrestled Rashad Evans from Michigan State, the fighter now. And he took me down 3 or 4 times, and I was like, wow, this guy can actually wrestle. He was terrible on the mat, and he'll admit it, because I actually picked top in double overtime to beat him. And when I looked at the bracket, I remember telling Branch, I was like, Jones is going to lose to Rashad.
Yeah.
I was like, Rashad's going to beat him. And I remember just warming up, and I was on deck, and I'm watching Greg across the way lose a match. And in my mind, I'm like, I just won NCAAs. I'm an NCAA champion. Yeah. This guy just got decked. Boom, Brad put that dream to rest real fast. And, that was probably the most devastating loss I've ever had in my life. And for Trey, his blood round match is going to drive him to new heights. I've already seen it. I've seen what he's been doing this spring, summer. He didn't like it. He really didn't like it, but we wouldn't let him back in the room for a couple weeks after the NCAA tournament. Said, you're shut down, that's it, no more. You're going to take a mental break. Everything that he had to go through with ASU denying his release, and then everything else that entailed, he was fatigued mentally, and I wanted him to be fresh. I wanted him to come in the room and enjoy what we're doing. And he went out and had a great performance at university, or U23s, whatever they're calling it these days. And I really think that he's jumped another level. And Trey's, I don't know if did Trey tell you the backstory with me and him?
Yeah, he said, I think he said you may have changed his diapers.
Yeah. It goes even more than that. They talk about, we're obviously having our camps going on right now. for Oregon State, but we talk about small instances changing people's life, the trajectory of their life. I wasn't a very good wrestler my first couple of years of high school. I wasn't a starter on my team. My freshman, sophomore year. Lost to a guy named Gilbert Sanchez. We'll never forget that. Never, ever forget that name. And I kind of was a little bit of a knucklehead, got in a little bit of trouble. And I remember my high school coach kind of kicked me off the team. And he was just trying to teach me a hard lesson. And God, it was in the middle of July or June, and a motorhome pulled up in front of my mom's house, and the entire wrestling team was in the motorhome, and he comes, knocks on the door. He's like, get off your butt, pack a bag. We're going to Oklahoma for camp. And I went to the Oklahoma State camp where I met John Smith, Mark Branch, Pat Smith, but I also met Mark Munoz.
Yeah.
And after one of the sessions, and camps, sometimes, you have recruits or superstars that might be at camp that might get a little more attention. I wasn't one of those kids. I remember asking John, hey, can I have a little bit more help with that low single? Like, a couple of little moves. And he goes, yeah, come here. Munoz, take this kid downstairs and help him with the low single. And Mark spent about 30, 45 minutes after the session just helping me.
Yeah.
Fast forward, a couple decades later, and I'm coaching his son.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. And it kind of goes back to, even with what you're talking about, like valuing people.
Investing
people, regardless of like who they are. And we've heard that from like Angle and a couple of the other guys. So it's cool to hear like the backstory to that value.
Yeah.
Brandon Kaler, he kind of had a cool he had a cool story. His blood round. I'd like to hear your perspective of that like little saga. Him, and maybe even just like kind of his personality, what he brings to the table.
Brandon Kaler is one of the most pure technicians I've ever been around. And his biggest problem is his self-belief. Did he tell you he almost transferred?
He's like, he's like, Pendleton, he's a big guy. Like, what does that have to do with me? So yeah.
Yeah, well, no. After last year, his first year.
Last year.
Yeah. He lost to the number 5 and 10 seed.
Okay.
And I don't get mad when people go out and wrestle. I don't get mad. I get mad when people don't really put it out there. When people have regrets.
Mm-hmm.
That as a coach is the worst thing in the world. And Brandon lost to the 5 and 10 seed. And I remember being just livid. And I didn't say anything because he went 0-2 on the first day. Did not say anything. Went back to the hotel after Saturday night. We were at the airport Sunday. And I literally sat him down and said, you're wasting a God-given talent. I have to go recruit somebody to beat you right now. I'm hitting the recruiting trail and I'm getting a 25-pounder to come in here and beat you. And he didn't take it the right way.
Yeah.
He was very mad at me. And then a couple weeks later, me and him had to sit down. And I was like, Brandon, do you know why I said that? He goes, why? Well, because you are so good. You should have beat the number 5 seed. You should have beat the number 10 seed. You are incredibly good. And if we don't get somebody in here to wake you up, I don't know if you'll wake up. And from that moment forward, he goes, go recruit somebody and I'm going to beat his butt. And then just took off like a rocket. His blood round match, he was one of those guys that, from that moment of just honest sit down conversation, everything I asked for him, everything I said, he was one of the people that if I put a book on our group chat, boom, he read it by the next day.
Yeah.
From that point on, I had no doubt in my mind that Brandon was going to be an All-American. He pulled some of the biggest upsets of the year. He had I think he has 4 top 10 upsets, but he wasn't ranked in the top 10. I mean, that was kind of like a little bit of the story for us this year. Grant Willits pinned the number 4 guy in the country and dropped in the rankings.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. But for BK, I remember at Vegas, he beat somebody that was pretty good. And he did, the celebration, run around. I knocked that off. And I was like, when you beat somebody that you're not supposed to beat, then I'll get excited. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, he beat Lamont from Utah Valley and kind of looked at me. I was like, yeah, you can celebrate. That's a really good guy. And then, going to the NCAA tournament, he was one of the ones I felt extremely confident about. The only funny story I can tell you about from the blood round match is, head coaches, we get a lot of the credit, a lot of the blame, but a lot of the credit as well. And I've been in a situation where I've been an assistant coach that you're on the mat and you're rolling around with somebody and you're doing all the extra stuff. Give your assistants credit, right? Give them their shine too. So when BK won his match in the blood round, I actually jumped up. Was so excited, my elbow caught Angle in the nose and gave him a bloody nose.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get out of the way so Brandon could go jump to him, not to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a big guy, so I think he would have probably gone to me first. But I was like, no, this is the guy that's like made the investments, and you pay him back.
Right. Yeah. No. Brandon was telling a story of there was like a challenge mid-match, and he's like, I was feeling good until the challenge. And then he's like, I start sweating. And he's like,
because he's so introspective, and he's such a deep thinker that I could see him like the wheels starting to go crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, like you're cruising, man. Don't change anything.
Yeah. The conversation like that you have with him after last year's NCAA tournament, how calculated it? Like, do you feel like you knew that was gonna like motivate him, or do you feel like, hey, this is just what needs to be said to him right now?
I think if you talk to a lot of our athletes or coaches, I'm not a bright guy. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I can't do the deception. I can't play the games. I'm very honest with people, and I believe that honesty is the best way to get better. Yeah. And those were just the honest thoughts.
Yeah.
And I never ever try to go from a position of putting people down or talking down to somebody. This was just reality. Brandon, I'm more upset with you than anybody in the program, and you lost the number 5 and 10 seed in the country back to back. That should tell you what I think of you, what I think of your potential, your ceiling. And it just was one of those deals, but it's hard when, you don't recruit somebody, you don't build those relationships. All of a sudden now you got a, new coach saying these things. It's hard. You know, he almost transferred when the old staff, who was replaced. Because, he's like, who's this guy? Why didn't you recruit me to ASU?
Yeah. How have you managed that with all the different moving pieces of like transfers coming in, new guys there, and it seems like the culture you've built has been like, people have described it as like family, like right now, like how does that come about?
It's not easy. It's believing who you are, believing what you say. I learned the last 5-6 years what I believe will trickle down to the program. Attitude is a reflection of leadership. Kids will value what I value, and you will get to that point where somebody's going to test you on it, and those are the toughest conversations you can have. Our kids have been amazing on their buy-in. As tough as that first year was with COVID, with the quarantines, with, told you guys I got the job in April, didn't get to meet the team till July, didn't get to have a real wrestling practice till like September, and in the room practice until like October, and we're watching programs across the country training and, doing their thing. It really made it the silver lining that we got to learn more about coaching people. And actually coaching people, investing in people, getting to know them, getting to understand who they were as people. And it was that silver lining that led to that buy-in, that these guys care about us, they want us to do good. And with the transfers, majority of the time, people go in the transfer portal for a reason, and a lot of times it's relationships. So that has been something that we've been really successful with the transfer portal, because when I get a transfer, I very rarely spend a lot of time with them on recruiting trips.
Yeah.
They've already seen it, they've done it, they've gone through the whole, coaches are salesmen, we can put a smile on our face, we can do all that stuff. I literally, when I get transfers, I spend a little time with them, and I give them to our kids. And I say, ask any question you want.
Yeah.
Go ahead, ask kids. See how we treat them, and then for the most part, we usually get the kids that we want.
Yeah. Have there been? Did you say there's kids that you've like stopped recruiting after?
100%.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. I've had a kid that brought up NIL at the dinner table, and I was like, oh, time out, moving on.
Yeah.
Had kids that I just could tell that just didn't fit the philosophy of the program. Because even when, it's a two-way street with transfers, is sometimes it's the coach's fault, sometimes it's the athlete's fault. It's not every kid that goes in the transfer portal for the right reason.
Yeah.
I kind of always keep that in my mind with Brandon Kaler in that situation at the first year is, what if I hadn't had to sit down with him and he had transferred, Yeah, one of the things when I got the job that actually like really surprised me was support from the wrestling community out here. I knew the administrator. I mean, I did my homework. I had 21 years of being in D1. I think I've been like at 4 places. I don't bounce around a lot. I'm a homebody by nature. And I knew it was going to take the right thing for me to do. My last year at ASU was going to be my last year. We went into that spring. And we had an agreement that I was going to finish Zahid, Shields, Tanner all off, and I had no idea what I was going to do after that.
Yeah.
No clue.
Really?
It was terrifying. Oh yeah, it's terrifying. And this job presented itself, and it was something that I always kind of like kept in the back of my mind, like Oregon State would be a really, really good job. And then when I got the job and I got to meet the people in the community, I learned about the wrestling endowment, $7 million with everything that's going on across the nation and college athletics. I mean, that makes us sleep pretty well at night.
Yeah.
But it also shows that there's such a passion and commitment from the alumni, from the community, that it really put us all back on our heels. Like, wow, people really care. One of the things that we just got to keep doing is building relationships within the state of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. It's one of the reasons why we've been doing a lot of satellite duels. We went and wrestled in Boise last year. It means the world to me that we go to places like Boise, we go to places like Seattle, and we show the wrestling community there and the administration and the colleges what could possibly be. When we wrestled Utah Valley in Boise last year, I think we had almost 2,000 people, and we really didn't even do that good job promoting it and everything, but the passion's there. So we're just gonna keep growing and fighting that fight. Our team, that 1, 2, and 5 year plan that when I got the job, that's what you presented.
Yeah.
That kept getting like just crumpled up, thrown out, crumpled up, thrown out. I don't know where our program's going. I don't like making predictions. I don't like promising things that I can't deliver. I've told, and it's kind of our recruiting pitch, is if you actually go and you sit down with a college coach and he can tell you that he can make you a world, Olympic, or NCAA champion, he's a flat out liar. Liar.
Yeah.
There is no promise. There is no guarantees. Where are those coaches with the pandemic? Why didn't they foresee that thing?
Right, right.
What we can promise kids, and we stand by it, is we will uncover every stone. We'll do whatever we take to maximize your potential.
Yeah.
We will invest ourselves in you, and you invest into the program, and we will do what we can do. And it's been working. And I think with the last year, for me personally, there was a lot of times where you're just like sitting there at night at 3 a.m. like, is this working? Do I know what I'm doing? We had our GPA went from the lowest on campus to about a 3.29, almost a 3.3. We will get to that 3.4, 3.5 range. We have 0 disciplinary issues. But the last piece was, can we win? Can we win?
Yeah.
And going from 49th in the country to 12th, Hunter Willits, stop throwing your headgear. You know how much headgears have cost us this year?
a few points, right?
Hunter Willis threw his headgear when he beat David Carr. That was a point.
Yeah.
I think that almost would have got us into like that top 10 range.
Yeah.
We lost the Pac-12 championship by half a point. Matthew O'Gean beat a California legend, a guy that he looked up to growing up. Anthony Valencia.
We talked to
And
Matt.
threw his headgear.
Yeah, he's like the
and I
nicest
see
kid,
Zeke
too.
sprinting across from the other side of the gym to tell the referee he threw his headgear.
Yeah.
That's a team point, and we lost the team
man.
championship by half a point.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Well, oh, you must be so mad at this," because I'm like, how do you be mad at?
Right.
Do you think I ran over to Hunter and be like, "Hey, don't ever throw your headgear when you beat the defending champion again. You're off the team."
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
literally why I didn't come back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been so cool. Like getting a behind the scenes look at like your program and like talking to all the guys, the coaches. It's been really cool. And of course, like seeing the sites. So like we really appreciate your time, like giving us full access. It's been really incredible.
Yeah, no, we're it's really kind of full circle for me and Flo.
Yeah.
Raccoon hunter to head coach.
There you go.
So
There you go.
we'll see where we're at in another decade.
There you go. Cool.